All right, hey guys, wanted to do a quick video because we've been getting a lot of emails at Open Carry Texas. I've been getting a lot of personal messages in Open Carry Texas. Been getting messages, been getting sent stuff, and frankly, there's just a lot of misinformation being put out there about whether or not Governor Abbott's declaration of a state of emergency has triggered House Bill 1177, which is the so-called disaster constitutional carry. A little bit of history. We actually opposed this bill on many grounds. We did try to amend it, and thanks to our friend Jonathan Stickland, he had several amendments that tried to change the bill before it was passed to allow for, well, real constitutional carry. And as we've maintained from the beginning, HB 1177 that the NRA thought was so great and so wonderful really doesn't do crap. Okay, it doesn't affect 99% of Texas 99% of the time. It applies strictly to a time during a declaration of disaster, a disaster declaration, or a state of emergency. And then it only applies to a mandatory evacuation order. Okay, so if you think that because Texas is in a state of emergency right now, a state of disaster because of the Wuhan virus, I'm not going to use the whole politically correct name for it because everyone wants to pretend that's not where it started. But regardless, if we're gonna have a state of emergency because of that, it is important that you as a gun owner understand, and you as a member of Open Carry Texas understand what the law is so you don't get yourself in trouble. Okay, the bottom line up front, so you don't have to watch the rest of this video, is no, you cannot carry in Texas without a license, openly or concealed, legally. I'm not talking about constitutionally. Under Texas law, let's just say you can get arrested for exercising your right to keep and bear arms without the permission slip that the government forces you to have through threat of violence. Okay, I want to read for you exactly what House Bill 1177 says and what the law is, so that I'm not just giving you another opinion. But before I do that, on March 13th, Governor Abbott declared a state of disaster. Okay, here's what his actual statement says. Therefore, I, Greg Abbott, governor of the state of Texas, do hereby certify that the Wuhan virus, he says COVID-19, poses an imminent threat of disaster. In accordance with the authority vested in me, blah, 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 I hereby declare a state of disaster for all counties in Texas. I authorize the use of available resources of state government and of political subdivisions that are reasonably necessary to cope with this disaster. Pursuant to 418.016 of the code, any regulatory statute prescribing the procedures for conduct of state business or any order or rule of the state agency that would in any way prevent, hinder, or delay necessary action in coping with this disaster shall be suspended, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so there's the state of disaster, all right? Nowhere in here do you hear or see anything about being forced to leave. Okay, so nobody is forced to evacuate. Just because we're in a state of disaster doesn't mean that you have to evacuate. Unlike if there's a hurricane coming, a lot of times there will be, in addition to the disaster declaration or an emergency declaration, there will also be orders to evacuate. Okay, now going back to 1177, and you can look under the penal code, the Texas Penal Code 46.15. That's what House Bill 1177 modified. So what I'm reading you is the bill, but it's also the law. So you can read it in Penal Code 4615. But this is the relevant part, okay? Section 4602 does not apply. Now, 4602 is the section that requires you to beg your government masters for permission to exercise an inalienable and natural right, that is to keep and bear arms in self-defense and defense of others. That's what 4602 is. Okay, that's the actual law that needs to be repealed, because that's the one that infringes upon your constitutional right. 4602 does not apply to a person who carries a handgun if, and this is subsection K, by the way, the person carries the handgun while, and these are the two times you're allowed to carry in a disaster area constitutionally, under the law. Okay, this is why I don't understand why the NRA gave everyone this hope that, oh, this is great, if there's a natural disaster, we'll have constitutional carry, because again, even if there is a national disaster, first we have to have one. Second, you have to be affected by that disaster. Third, you have to be ordered to evacuate. And fourth, you actually have to evacuate. Okay? Those are sort of the elements of that bill. So this says 4602 does not apply if you are carrying a handgun while A, evacuating from an area subject to a mandatory evacuation order issued during a state of disaster declared under the section of law that Governor Abbott quoted. That's why I wanted to read his section first, because he specifically quotes the section of Texas law that gives him the authority to declare a disaster. This law in 4615 of the Penal Code specifically talks about that exact same section. So had Governor Abbott declared a disaster under that section and issued a mandatory evacuation order, then the state of Texas would be a constitutional carry state if you are evacuating. Or under B, re-entering that area following the person's evacuation. So just walking around, doing your thing, fighting over toilet paper, that is not even if you were ordered to evacuate, that's not a constitutional carry provision under the law. You would have to actually be evacuating or re-entering an area from which you were ordered to evacuate. Okay. And of course, it only lasts for 168 hours unless the governor extends that. So I wanted to make sure y'all had the facts. Okay, please like and share this video, because there are a lot of people out there with a lot of opinions saying a lot of stupid crap about what the law is. And I wanted to make sure that we at Open Carry Texas let you know exactly what the law is. And I'm going to summarize this one more time. These are the elements. This is what triggers the constitutional carry provision that was passed under House Bill 1177 last session. That is currently the law. First, a disaster has to be declared under the government code by someone, the governor. Once that disaster is declared, that's the first step. The second step is there has to be a mandatory evacuation order that is a part of that disaster declaration. Okay, so that's the second step. You have to have the state of emergency. Second, you have to have the mandatory evacuation order. Third, you must be evacuating from the area that is the subject of the disaster declaration. So in this case, the entire state of Texas is the disaster area. Okay, if you were ordered to evacuate the state of Texas, first of all, I'd say stop, don't fight. But if you were ordered to evacuate the state of Texas, then yes, the entire state of Texas, you would be able to carry without a license while you were in the process of evacuating. Now, that doesn't mean you have to constantly be moving. Obviously, if you have to stop for gas, if you have to stop for provisions, if you stop to get a meal, you would still be covered under the ability to carry open or conceal without a license. But you have to be in the active process of evacuating. The fourth and final one is you have to be re-entering back into the state of Texas, which was the subject of the disaster declaration and the evacuation order. Okay, there you go. Those are the facts. That's all the information that is truthful. Do not listen to the internet know-it-alls who are out there trying to say, hey, we can carry without a license, because what's going to happen is you're going to get yourself charged with a Class A misdemeanor, spend more than a year in jail, and it's going to be crazy. Or spend up to a year in jail, excuse me, not more than a year. Up to a year in jail, and you're going to be paying all kinds of fines. All right, folks, be safe, be free, and be healthy.